Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. He's the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, a member of the Judiciary Committee, which, of course, will ultimately oversee and draft possible articles of impeachment should it come to that against President Trump. From your perch watching this, the third day, the longest day of testimony in this inquiry, what were your main takeaways?
Well, good evening, Chris. Great to be on. The evidence of wrongdoing by Donald Trump continues to hide in plain sight, and the central concern remains the same. On that July 25th phone call, Donald Trump pressured a foreign government to target Joe Biden, an American citizen, for political gain, and thereby solicit foreign interference in the 2020 election, while at the same time they were withholding $391 million in aid that had been allocated to Ukraine in a bipartisan way without justification. And not a single witness, including those that the Republicans suggested come before the Intel Committee, has been able to dispute those central allegations. And so this is textbook abuse of power. The witnesses continue to confirm that the national security interests of the United States of America have been undermined. And we're going to continue to present the truth to the American people and see where that leads.
What do you say to those members, Republican members of the committee, who say it is the president's job, duty, and sole right to determine what the national security interests are of the United States? All of these bureaucrats you keep throwing us, all these functionaries and staffers and officials that you keep clogging up the hearings with, it doesn't matter what they think. What only matters is what Donald Trump thinks.
Well, what matters is the fact that Congress, on a bipartisan basis, the House and the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, progressives and conservatives, allocated that $391 million to the Ukraine in military and economic assistance because Ukraine is a friend, Russia is a foe. Ukraine is a democracy, Russia is a dictatorship, and the United States is probably the only thing standing between Vladimir Putin and Russia completely overrunning Ukraine as part of his fantasy to reconstruct the glory days of the Soviet Union. That would undermine the national security interests of the American people. That is exactly why Congress acted in a bipartisan way. And what Donald Trump did is he elevated his own personal political interests and subordinated the national security interests of the American people. He effectively turned the Oval Office into the Trump campaign 2020 re-election headquarters. That's an abuse of power.
Are you confident that this process will end up in your committee ultimately? Devin Nunes today sort of taking a shot, I think, at the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, implying that this was taken out of his hands for some kind of purpose of gamesmanship. Where do you see this headed?
First of all, does Devin Nunes have any credibility anywhere reasonably in the United States of America after continuing to embarrass himself over the last 2 years? He's somebody who clearly believes that the House is not a separate and co-equal branch of government, that he works for Donald Trump, and he's acting like a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump administration. So he has no credibility as it relates to this situation. Now, we're going to continue to follow the facts, apply the law, be guided by the Constitution, present the truth to the American people. As Speaker Pelosi has continued to urge us, we're going to proceed in a serious and solemn fashion. We'll see what happens at the conclusion of the Intel Committee's public investigation and presentation of information. And if they make a recommendation to the Judiciary Committee, we'll take that recommendation and do what's necessary at that point. But that hasn't been determined.
All right, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, thank you very much.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.